sorry, I'll say that again. Before we start with the roll call, I wanted to take a moment for one of our commissioners, Walt Steiner. Walt passed away September 4th of this year. He joined the Planning and Zoning Commission in July of 2017. He was reappointed in February. He was an asset to this council and to the city, and he will be missed, and I would like to observe a moment of silence in his honor, if you'll join me. Thank you. Very well, Madam Secretary, will you please note the roll?
Commissioner Ellison is present. Commissioner Kish is present. Commissioner Maloney is present. Vice Chairman Barnes is present. Chairman Bray is on the phone. Commissioner Clymer is absent. We have a quorum.
At this point, I'll take a vote to excuse Commissioner Clymer. Do I hear a motion?
So motion.
Second.
Second. It has been properly motioned and seconded. Do I? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Very well. Item 1 is to approve our draft minutes from last month, August 11th, 2021. Can I have a motion or discussion on the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve last month's meeting minutes.
Second.
Second, very good. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Now is the time for any citizen who would like to address the Planning and Zoning Commission on any non-agenda item, which in almost 9 years has never happened. One day before my term is up, I would like to see somebody address the council on a non-agenda item, just so I can say I've seen it. No speaker cards, Madam Secretary? Okay, very good. We will move on to disclosure of ex parte communications. Have any commission members had any discussions outside that they need to expose? No, very good. Then agenda item number 2, the Cotton Commons rezone, and I will open the public hearing, and our city planner, Christian Williams, will present.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
While Christian is getting ready for his presentation, just 2 quick items. Normally, as you know, we have a full quorum which is 7 members. The ordinance requires 4 affirmative votes for something to have a recommendation of approval. So I just want to make sure everybody is clear on that, and all of our guests are clear on that. And if maybe we can ask Chairman Bray to test to make sure that he can hear us and that he can speak on the phone, that would be fantastic.
Chairman Bray, can you give us an aye?
This is Chairman Bray. I can hear you. Aye.
Okay, thank you. Very good, Christian. Good to see you.
Nice to see you as well. All right. Good evening, Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm here before you this evening with a request from Wendy Riddell to conduct a rezoning on a property within the city. This property is located in the central area of our city in a portion we call West Goodyear, that is west of Cotton Lane. Property is approximately 40 acres in size, and it is located on the southwest corner of 173rd Avenue and Lower Buckeye Road. So 173rd Avenue is approximately 1/4 mile west of Cotton Lane. The property is currently zoned R16 for single-family residential. And it is indicated on this map right here with the square box and the star. Zooming in a little closer, you can see that the property is located west of the City of Goodyear well site number 12. It is north of the El Cedro development in an open space quarter that is owned by that HOA. It is it is east of the future Agua Fria Union High School District site. It's about a 40-acre site for them, or 40 to 60 acre site for them. And it is south of the future development called La Jolla Vista, which is on the north side of Lower Buckeye Road. So the site again is this right here. We'll be talking about El Cedro here, well site 12, and then the Agua Fria High School site is this block here. As it relates to the general plan land use, the project falls within the neighborhoods area, and this is a category that is similar to other apartments that have developed within the city. Some, for example, would be Serafina and Lunaire over in the Centera area. Also, yes, Encantada at Canyon Trails is another one that also falls within neighborhoods. For a little history on the property, the project was initially zoned, or is zoned, R16, single-family residential, as part of a project called Cotton Commons that was rezoned back in 2005. Since 2005, for a little bit of history on the area, the Arizona State Route 303 freeway route has become a little bit more clear, as it will head down Cotton Lane to Lower Buckeye Road. At that point, the freeway will travel to the southwest, and it will intersect with the proposed State Route 30 Tres Rios Freeway. So you can see the freeway route here. It ends currently at Van Buren. It's planned to head to Lower Buckeye Road and then travel to intersect with the SR30. That interchange is about 1.5 miles to the southwest of the project we're talking about today, which for reference again is right here. Today's proposal requests to rezone the western portion of the property as MF24. That's multifamily max of 24 units an acre. That'd be the site that's closest to the future high school site. And MF12, which is 12 units max on the east side. That'll be closest to the well site. And I will go into a little bit more details on that on the next slide again. You can see a zoomed in version of that right here. As it relates to other multifamily in the area of Goodyear that are between McDowell Road on the north, the future SR30 on the south, Perryville Road to the west, and Bullard Ave to the east, so we're forming a little box here. I know this map isn't the easiest, but I do want to give you some context on where additional multifamily is. There are 8 established multifamily communities within that area. There are 7 multifamily communities under development. There's 2 that are garden style and 5 that will be the single family rental or kind of MF12 equivalent. And there are 13 that are zoned for multifamily. 5 of those will likely be single family rental, 6 will likely be garden style, and 2 are in the city center area, which will likely require rezoning. And there are 7 projects that you'll likely to see in the future. So for colors of that, I should have mentioned the colors earlier. The orange are established. The purple are ones you see that are under construction or right now have a grand opening sign. The yellow are zoned or entitled for some form of multifamily, and the blues are ones that you may see in the future, including the one today, which is right here. That's right. You're seeing it today. I also want to mention something else. The closest the closest MF12 type product that's under construction today is right across the freeway, our future freeway. It's 1.2 miles away, and it's called Arable Vistas, and that is over here at Cotton Lane and Elwood. The closest that is actually open is Terra Lane, which is up on Van Buren and 173rd. And then as we're referring to the MF24 type product, the closest one that's constructed is in Encantada Canyon Trails. That's about 3.1 miles to the northeast. Any questions on the map so far?
No.
All right.
It's a very nice map.
Thanks. So the applicant requests to rezone the eastern half, which is 19.18 acres, as MF12. That's a single-family rental type product. And the western half, which is 20.95 acres, as MF24. In addition to that, so they're going to do hard city zonings, but in addition to that, stipulations have been added to address continuity with the surrounding area, colors, aesthetics, and provide more diversity in the product offering. The image on the right is conceptual in nature, but shows how that configuration might be achieved. Again, the MF12 must be placed on the east side, and the max MF24 needs to be placed on the west side. So developments within the MF24 parcel will include color schemes that add visual interest and variation to the buildings on the site. At least 2 base colors must be included, and 3 accent materials and colors must be added throughout. And the combination of those must create 4 unique building schemes throughout the site. The goal is that you don't have a bunch of apartment buildings that look exactly the same on that site. It also explicitly says that variation in color does not mean shades of browns or grays all across the site, as we've seen lately, so that's a requirement there. The MF12 parcel shall also have vibrant colors, not just shades of gray. They will be building a West Goodyear monument sign that will be installed at the intersection of 173rd Avenue and Lower Buckeye, as this is a gateway into the West Goodyear area. They'll include trellises, picket fencing, agrarian elements, and the like that they will need to incorporate into their project. They will include a pedestrian connection midway south on their project at 175th. That's right here, because as you'll recall, the Agua Fria High School site's basically here. So we want to make sure kids aren't hopping fences or walking all the way around. The perimeter wall color will need to blend with the El Cedro development and feature cobblestone, split rail fencing, or agrarian themes, and those two developments need to look cohesive. The southern wall along the open space corridor should contain view fencing. There shall be no carports allowed within the southern 15 feet of that, only landscaping. You'll recall that stipulation on the innovation bill is making sure we don't have carports right up against that wall. And since the existing R16 would allow for buildings up to 30 feet in height today on lots 100 feet deep, we have made a height restriction within the southern 100 feet of the MF24. So we're capping the southern 100 feet to a building height of no greater than 30 feet to correspond with the existing R16 zoning there today. So, and for reference, the height that an MF24 can go up to is 40 feet. So there's 10 feet lower within the southern 100 feet. And then again, note that if you look on that parking, on the plan there today, what they're attempting to do today would be to do parking there, so there's no structures there at all. But again, the zoning says no structures over 30 feet for the first 100 feet. So the applicant hosted a virtual neighborhood meeting on June 1st, 2021. Comments from the neighbors were largely concerning the 3-story rental product and the loss of the views to the mountains to the northwest. I'm presuming those mountains are the White Tank Mountains. Additionally, subsequent emails have come in to the planning staff and the city council with similar concerns. Staff has evaluated the impact of the proposed zoning on the greater community, and with no major concerns being found, staff recommends you forward an approval recommendation to rezone the property from R16 single family to MF12 multifamily residential for approximately 19.18 acres of property located on the east side, and MF24 for approximately 20.95 acres on the west side, subject to the ordinance stipulations. And with that, if you have any questions, I can answer those. We also do have the applicant here if you have specific questions for the applicant.
Very good. Thank you. I will go first with questions. I have two. Number one, on the south side of the property, is a road slated to go in there
On the south side of property?
between, you know, the high school and this site and the houses to the south? Will there be a road there?
So this might be a good illustration. So due south of the site, there's actually a major power line corridor. So there's a landscape open space that is over 100 feet. That goes east to west in this corridor. There is a road planned to go north-south right here called 175th Avenue. That road will ultimately feed into El Cedro. So El Cedro development will have access to get to Lower Buckeye on that road. The high school will feed onto that road. The multifamily could feed there, but right now intends to feed onto the 174th Avenue alignment. So there will be no way for this development immediately to connect south onto a road there because no road can exist.
So you'll have a chance to speak. Right now is staff and commissioners, and then the applicant, and then there'll be a chance for anybody who wants to speak as well. So my second question is, just explain to us, how does from R16 to MF comply with the general plan? I think it says in the summary that it does comply with the general plan. Can you explain that to us?
Because the overall density, multifamily is allowed in the neighborhoods category. It looks at a density, so across that whole site, the density meets the neighborhood's general plan. And that's similar again to Serafina, Lunaire. Those are larger apartment complexes in the neighborhoods category, as well as in Cantata over at Saraville and Van Buren.
Do any other commissioners have questions? Commissioner Kish?
In regards to the MF12 versus MF24, are the MF12 the single story that we're seeing in like the Avias and such, or are they a 2-story, 3-story product as well?
So they can be 2 stories, but what we have seen in Goodyear as of late are 1-story product.
Okay, so half of that site, no, this isn't guaranteed, but the east side of the site is going to be the MF12, which is going to be the possible single-story.
That is correct. We would anticipate to see likely single story or MF12 like that.
Okay, and then on the west side, it's going to be the more dense MF24, which is going to be capped off at 30 feet.
Capped at 30 feet for the southern 100 feet to correspond with the today's zoning,
Okay,
and the northern portion of that could go to 40 feet.
so like if this was in a quadrant, looking at that southern portion where the pool is or that southern section on the south side here, that would probably be capped at 30 feet, I imagine.
The 100 feet is down here.
Oh, okay.
So in this model that they ran, this is not an approved site plan. They contemplated just doing parking there in
Okay.
order to have no structures. But in the event they did want to come in with structures, we've capped it at 30 feet,
Gotcha.
which would typically be about a 2-story building,
Right.
typically.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other commissioners with questions? So on the east side, the height limit is in the MF12?
I
that
believe
height
it's
limit?
30 feet,
So 30 feet,
typically about 2 stories.
okay. No more questions from commissioners? Very good. At this time, the applicant may address the commission if they so wish. Applicant has 10 minutes.
Thank you.
And please give us your name and address.
Certainly, and I'm hoping staff can help me pull up the presentation. Wonderful. My name is Wendy Riddell, for your records, with the law firm of Barry Riddell, 6750 East Camelback. It's always difficult to go after Christian because he does such a great job going through all the details of the project. So I'm going to try to just hit the highlights and not dwell on much of what he's already presented. We are in agreement with staff's recommendation and stipulations. If you would go to the next slide, please. If I have a way to advance it, I'm happy to, but I don't. Oh, well, there we go. Thank you. So just wanted to point out that my client here is Steve Addison and John Fiebre. They have quite a bit of experience in doing this type of product, both multifamily, single family for rent. This is an opportunity zone. They are long-term holders of this property and are certainly approaching it as such. They are also partnered up with 29th Street Capital, so they're well capitalized, have a significant amount of experience, not only nationally, but also here in Goodyear. As Christian mentioned, our request here is to rezone this site, a portion of it to the MF24 and a portion to MF12 to allow the little bit of diversity in housing to occur here in West Goodyear. You guys touched on briefly the general plan. So the general plan designation here is neighborhoods. So what we are proposing is entirely consistent with the general plan. We did also find it interesting, staff actually pointed this out to us as well. When you went back and looked at the previous general plan, it also anticipated that there would be some diversity, some intensity here, I think probably knowing that the high school will be coming along and ultimately the 303. So when you plug this in, you can see this is the rezoning. You can actually see the site plan that is proposed from the Agua Fria Union High School, the ultimate location of the 303, and then how the request fits within that context. And then here, if you drill down a little bit further, I think this goes to the question I heard asked earlier, which is immediately to the south, there's actually a 102-foot wide power line corridor before you get to our property line. And then again, the site plans that we are showing here are indeed conceptual, but we're very comfortable with the stipulations that have been proposed, which ensures that there's that setback from the back property line. These will be single-story units. That is the intent on the MF12. So again, once showing it in the context here, If you look at what has been approved surrounding it, you look at the alignment of the 303, the high school site, you can see how this fits appropriately within the context of the surrounding uses. So again, you see the MF24, we're looking at a maximum of 3 stories, max height of 40 feet, mix of garages, carport, surface parking. The intent actually is to have no structures along that southern boundary, but again, we're comfortable with that stipulation. And then the single-story, single-family for rent will be on the eastern portion. So one of the questions I think that has come up quite a bit in our outreach on this has been from the residents to the south and the concern that this would impact ultimately their views. So in working on that issue with staff, you recognize again, of course, there's a 102-foot line, 102-foot wide power line corridor that exists here today. And we're very comfortable to committing to an additional 15-foot setback on our side for landscaping, as well as ensuring ultimately the buildings themselves are pushed further back. So here you'll see the conceptual site plan shows it an additional 138 feet. So when you look at that from a cross section, you can see there is a grand total from the back fence of the properties all the way to the first structure. I mean, you are looking at 240 feet. So it's quite a significant distance set back from the property line to address that concern. So the same is, of course, on the south property line condition when you look at the MF12. That was not really much of an issue when we spoke with the community, primarily because they recognize it's single story as well. But again, it's also set back from that property line, but that's the rear yard, the rear backyard. But again, you're looking at single story product here. So what it really came down to, for the most part, was a concern about a block of views from the neighbors to the south. And when you compare it, you're looking at that either 122-foot setback with a 30-foot tall building that's allowed by right today, versus what we're proposing is a 240-foot setback with a maximum 40-foot tall building. And I would suggest to you that ultimately leaves the neighbors at least in a like, if not better condition as it comes to the view. One of the other questions we've heard a lot of is why here? Certainly, I think it is no surprise to this commission here in West Goodyear, there has not been a tremendous amount of this type of diversity of housing. And you guys have been incredibly successful in driving businesses to Goodyear. And we're looking for employees to have a place to live so they can live, work, and play in Goodyear. And that's what this is all about. The other major factor, of course, is the Loop 303 freeway. That is in final design. It ultimately will be constructed, and it really creates easy access for those employees to come here to this site. And then when we compare, and my maps may not be quite as current as Christian's for sure, because I can't tell you what's under construction and whatnot, but you can see very clearly the vast majority of multifamily that has been approved and entitled in Goodyear is up to the north and east and is not in West Goodyear. And the same thing is true, the single family rental options, certainly you're seeing more of those that have come in recently, but again, not immediately here, and tremendous need from the employment base in Goodyear. So with that, we, as I mentioned, are in agreement with all of staff's stipulations. I'm happy to answer any additional questions that you may have. We respectfully request your approval.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for the applicant? Commissioners?
Thank you.
No.
Mr. Chairman, if you want to call on Commissioner Bray or Chairman Bray, just to make sure he...
Chairman Bray, do you have any questions for the applicant?
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary, do we have any speaker cards?
I'd like to clarify one thing. I said that the MF12 height is 30 feet. It's 25 feet.
25 feet.
And for the MF12, which is that eastern side.
So the east side of the property, those would be limited to 25 feet tall.
By right today, it can go to 30.
Okay, which is about a typical single-story home.
Yeah, sorry.
plus or minus, depending on the pitch of the roof. Okay. We have 5 speaker cards. So now I get to tell you the City of Goodyear rules on speaking. Everybody has 3 minutes. There will be a yellow light that comes on when you reach 20 seconds, and then when you are out of time, the red light will come on. We'd like you to start by giving us your name and whether or not you were a Goodyear resident. I also like it if you tell us where you live in relation to this site. You don't have to say that, but it's helpful. And you must limit your comments to this agenda item. If you would like to speak on a non-agenda item, there's a section for that, and you can come back and speak during that portion if you want. And then we just ask the audience to maintain quiet and no clapping or whistles or cheers or anything of that nature. So I will begin with the first card I have. I have Chris and Monica. I can't read. Is it Houston? Okay. Who wants to go first? Come on up, give us your name, and let us know if you're a resident. And then your 3 minutes will begin.
This is Chris and
Monica.
We live in the El Cedro to the south of the proposed building site. And I guess what, my question would be is, well, when we bought there, we looked at all the zoning too beforehand. And one of the reasons we bought in El Cedro is because we saw around a zone for single family homes. But also, we're starting to see, with the homes getting built, more traffic, and Lower Buckeye is a 2-lane road, and there's going to be more there. Is there any plan to widen that road to ease the traffic that's going to come with these additional, residences and these multifamily homes?
Because coming out of there is going to be really tough.
And that's our main thoroughfare for most people that live in the El Cedro, is to come out through there to get to Lower Buckeye, to get to Cotton Lane. Cotton Lane's already filled with a lot of commercial trucks and traffic in the morning, and in the evening it's really bad.
With no lighting?
With no lights, no light. Is there any plan for any future to alleviate that in any way?
Can we answer that question? Or do we answer at the end?
Yes, sir. Let everybody speak, and then
Yeah.
if the commission has questions based on what you hear, you can ask staff and we'll answer the questions.
Yeah, well, at the end, after everybody's had a chance to talk, we can ask staff to address those items. Any questions you have? Okay, can you spell your last name for me so I have it?
Hurtado.
Okay. Just so I have it right on the card. And you are residents?
Yes.
Yes, of El Cedro, yes.
Okay. Thank you for coming. I get the feeling that a lot of people are going to leave after this item, so let me take this opportunity to tell you that all of us are volunteer commissioners. We applied, and then the city council interviews and selects commissioners. So you too can be a planning and zoning commissioner if you wish. At least 2 of us, maybe 3, are termed out at the end of this year, so there will definitely be some openings. I encourage you to go on the city website and apply if you're interested, and then you can have my seat. The next person is, I just have the last name Rutherford. Mr. or Mrs. Rutherford? Ms. Rutherford.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is actually Ruth Ford. I am a resident of Goodyear. I live in El Cedro on the View Fence side. And I don't have a question. I just wanted to, I guess, reiterate my displeasure with this project. My family and I lived in the far West Valley. We very intentionally selected Goodyear, very intentionally selected El Cedro, built a dream house, plunked down $400,000+, and now we're faced with looking at the back of an apartment complex. I think it does have an adverse effect on the environment. I am also concerned about traffic mitigation, concerned about the aesthetic, and I just wanted to say, I think completely reasonable when we moved in, or when we were looking, I should say, the rental or the property people told us that there would be houses there, which it perfectly reasonable expectation. I don't find it a reasonable expectation that now I have spent this kind of money and I am going to be looking at the back of an apartment complex. That is all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. The next one, Lou McBee. Come on down. And it's checked here that you are a resident, so.
Yep, I'm in Sin Lomas, just northeast, literally just adjacent to the apartments going in. Name is Lou McBee, 3-year resident. My biggest situation is, to point on her subject, when we bought our house roughly 3 years ago, we moved here to get away from everybody. Apartments, traffic, combustion, all the just grouped together people. I went from a 2-minute commute to work to a literally 45-minute one-way, 45-mile, round trip commute on purpose. So by bringing this into, let's say they pointed on housing for new jobs, people don't buy a house where they live. They move where they want to move and they'll go to work. So basically, most of us are homeowners. We enjoy it because we take care of our properties. We enjoy the neighborhood. We have neighbors. We have this. Apartment complexes, especially one this large, it does screw over El Cedro incredibly horribly compared to Sin Lomas, but I'm literally right there. I pull out every day. I'm going to see the congestion, the traffic, people that don't care about their property. Renters simply don't care. I've got a renter now that just sadly moved into someone that just bought a house. Yard's already gone to crap. I'm now landscaping their yard, fixing their yard because I want my property to stay clean. So you bring apartments in with high schoolers that group together, 5, 6 people in one apartment to afford the rent, to move out of mom and dad's house. You deal with people that simply don't care. That's not what Goodyear is. You go around Goodyear and it's homely, it's community, it's farms. I wish it would all stay farms. I'm not stupid. I know it's going to grow, but with it growing, it should grow the way it's zoned out, as single-family homes, as a community that we're going to protect, take care of, and grow as a community. What the apartment complex does is just brings in multitudes of random people that don't care about anything around them. It is a place to stay until their lease is up. They'll move on to a better spot until they get evicted, whatever the case may be. So my biggest thing is it is not what Goodyear was zoned for. It's not what Goodyear was designed for. And they talk about all these other communities coming in around the area, but you take one lap around this area of Goodyear and there's no apartments anywhere. There's the single family tiny homes right off the 303 there. I get that, but that's a single family home. You got the apartments that went up over there by the Harley Davidson, but that's way away. That's on the other side. That is in a different zoning area. This area is farmland and it is community homes. The El Cedro just got put in. So yeah, they are definitely the worst case scenario here, but I'm literally rock throwing distance away from this. And I don't want to deal with the traffic. I don't want to deal with the burglaries we're going to deal with. I don't want to deal with the crime and the stuff we're going to deal with because they don't care. They're a renter. If I was a renter, shoot, the last house I was in, I rented for 2 years before I bought my house. I didn't give a crap. I paid them my rent and I moved on. I didn't care what the house looked like. So with that being said, apartments are just, nobody's going to care. The neighborhood is going to go to shit. Sorry for my language, my bad. And it's going to bring our property values
3
down
minutes.
and just ruin the area. So
Thank you for
I
coming
wish I had
in.
more than 3 minutes, but yeah. Okay.
Next speaker, John Boswell. And please restate your name and let us know if you're a resident.
My name is John Boswell. I am a resident on the Uppers El Cedro property. And my concern is, in my business, I've been in the security business for a long time. And I have seen developments go up. They start out fresh, and all of a sudden now my security team is taking homeless out from under the stairwells. Okay, so that's my concern. My other concern is I go to work every day. Now I'm going to be in fear of leaving my wife alone. We bought Goodyear apartment housing. We bought that because I'm getting ready to retire. Now I got an apartment right across the street from me. That's a problem. Now I might have to be looking for a new house. Okay, so I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with all these apartments going up. You know, Goodyear is a great place to live. We moved here for that reason. Now we have to deal with this. Right smack in the middle of all this housing. Okay, so I don't know how anybody else feels about it, but that's how I feel about it. All right, so my wife says be nice because I'm a retired Marine, so I'm gonna be nice about it. Okay, so, all right, thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Our last speaker, unless there's anyone else, if there is anyone else that wants to speak, you do have a chance. We just ask that you get a speaker's card and fill it out. Do we have one more? Okay. I also have several who did not want to speak but registered their opinion. The next one up, Robert Leslie. Did I get that right? Leslie?
Correct. Again, Robert Leslie. I live in El Cedro. I butt right up to this new development, and I participated in the applicants' meeting when they had the Zoom meeting. Our only concern wasn't the view. It was the view. It was the vandalism. It was the crime. It was the traffic. So the applicant latched on to the view issue, so that's not the only issue we have as residents. I, too, moved here from Chicago to get away from rentals. I moved to Goodyear because it is a residential, it's a family community, single-family community. So really some of my comments are, the presentation, we're now being told that they can possibly put a two-story on the east side. That was not in the presentation we originally saw from the applicant. And they're telling us they're going to put the 3 stories back 138 feet. Well, if we pass this zoning, they can put them right against that line. There's nothing to stop them. In addition to that, if the developers own this property since 2015, they aren't maintaining the property as it is now. It is full of weeds. We have bugs. We have animals because of this. If they can't maintain the lot, how are they going to maintain an apartment complex? 605 units and 40 acres, that's condensed. You're packing them in there. Crime will increase, as I mentioned before. You're adding 751 more parking spaces. There goes the traffic. Where El Cedro's adding another 700 or 900 homes, so you're going to quadruple that in that area, and you're going to not be able to get anywhere. Sort of the last thing is, with the 3-story apartment buildings, there are no other 3-story apartment buildings in the residential community we are bought in. And we're being told that you can have a 2-story the same height, but you don't typically have a full community of 2 stories. And also a 2-story family residence doesn't have 20 or 30 people in those buildings. And as one of the previous speakers spoke about, you're going to have multiple people pooling money to rent an apartment who don't care about the community. They'll be in the green space that butts up against my house. And if they do put a view fence against the apartment building, I'm going to look at cars. I'm going to look at trash. I'm going to look at all of that for the rest of the time we're in this home. So I too may need to move out of Goodyear because of this. So again, I asked the commission to reevaluate it and not look at it from the standpoint of it's more revenue for the city, but think about the folks who bought in that neighborhood when it was zoned as a residential community. So thank you.
Thanks for coming in. We have one more speaker, Thomas Hawks. Again, if anyone else wishes to speak, you still have a chance. We just want you to fill out a speaker's card.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me come up here to talk. I want to say thank you for your services, and I give praise for the work that you guys are doing. I appreciate it. My concern is, I come from the Southern California area, and we moved here to get away from the noise and the confusion and the traffic of city life. And we chose Goodyear because it is a single-family residential area, which has been very, very quiet. And my wife and I, we love that aspect about our home. But to see what is proposed here, the density is my name is Tom. I live in Sin Lomas community. And the density is going to be 8 times of the units. 8 times compared to where we live in Sin Lomas. I feel like our community in Sin Lomas is very close. I mean, it's like 10 feet from one house to the next. They're very closely built, and that feels tight to me as it is. And to think that you're going to put in 8 times the density into that one area is just appalling. I can't imagine even anybody wanting to live there. The other part of that is the sirens. I remember the sirens living in the city. And, every 10, 20 minutes, there would be sirens going down the streets. And the congestion, the traffic. We have a home community area where children play, and there are parks designated for those children. But those parks are open. It is not a gated community. And just a stone's throw away, you're going to put in 8 times the congestion of homes. You're going to have many more times the amount of cars and traffic. You can't help but see what the future will hold with the crime, the tagging, the destruction of our home areas, the gangs.
3 minutes.
The people living in parks or desecrating the parks that are ours for our community. The way that it will raise the cost of maintenance for our grounds, and it will decrease the value of our homes is a huge concern to me. I'm really disappointed to see this proposal on the books, and I would beg of you to do what you can to reduce or eliminate that type of condensed housing in that area. I just don't think we should have to live with that and change our lives in such a manner as what is being proposed here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Are we at the end of the 3 minutes? Okay, sorry, I get confused. I didn't see the yellow. Thank you for coming. Okay. Oh, do we have 2 more? I'm gonna set a record. Anita Cook is our next speaker. And again, if you'd restate your name and let us know if you're a resident.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Anita Cook, and I am a resident in the El Cedro development. And I'm just here today to support my community and let you know that I moved here from California and wanted to live in a nice community and did a lot of research and so forth before we moved here to Goodyear. Goodyear has an excellent reputation. We receive a monthly note from the mayor, a pamphlet, and there seems to be a lot of pride in this city. And I feel like if you put the multiple apartments right in that area, all of the reasons that my community just brought up, the crime, the homelessness, the traffic, all that is just going to bring Goodyear down. I've driven through the city just today and saw lots of other empty areas that would be fitting for the apartment complex. And I'm just wondering, why would anyone want to bring our area down like that? It's just not a good idea. I didn't want to belabor you with all the other reasons that that my neighbors and community brought up. I just wanted to say, if you want to keep Goodyear a good city with a good reputation and a place where people can be proud to live in, then why not consider how you zone the apartments and things like that? Thank you so much for hearing me.
Thank you. You were in opposition, correct?
I am in opposition, yes.
Mark that on your sheet.
100. Oh, okay, I missed it. I was doing it so fast, I apologize for being late.
Okay, and one more speaker. Danny, is it Mitchell or Michael? And one more time, if you'd restate your name and let us know that you're a resident for the audio feed.
Hello, my name is Danny Michelle. I'm a resident of San Lomas. I didn't probably fill everything out, to be quite honest. Originally, I wasn't going to speak. I was more or less just going to listen, but kind of just looking at the crowd and seeing the diversity of it all. I, as well, bought the home with the intention of it being single-family homes around me. By looking at it, I'm not the youngest guy in the world anymore. I do have a wife and 2 kids, but, you know, this is universally disliked by someone that's only 30 years old to someone that's about to retire. So the fact that it is zoned for single-family homes, I think, is very important, something that we need to keep. We did mention the fact that they're going to diversify it and make it look a little bit different. We'll see if that's true or not, but I have been driven around, especially the one by the Harley-Davidson facility. I'm personally not a huge fan of it. I think it looks very basic, and just doesn't bring any life to Goodyear. There's plenty of spaces that you could put apartment complexes. I'm not completely opposed to it in other spots, but in that particular area, not only is it going to be a hell of a lot more congested, but it just simply isn't what it was zoned for. We bought right there because we thought we were going to be in a family community, and that's what we want to keep it as. So from me just starting off with this being my first house to someone that plans to retire, I strongly hope that you say no to this.
Thank you. And you were in opposition, correct?
100%.
Okay. I'm also going to mark that on the box for you. Are there any more? We do have one more. All right. Give us your name and status of residency, and then please fill out a card before you leave.
I did. I originally wasn't going to speak. My name's Taylor Benner. I live in San Lomas as well. After hearing everybody else speak, I just wanted to come up and say something that nobody else brought attention to. I don't know if they're in the same situation, but I just had a kid. She's going to be 2 here pretty soon, and we're planning on having another one. And I do not want to raise my kid in an area where there's dense population. I came from Southern California. I know exactly what happens when an apartment complex gets put in right next to a high school, right next to a freeway, becomes Section 8, and I don't want that happening to my neighborhood. I don't think anybody here wants that happening to their neighborhood. And to piggyback off of his point with the parks, they aren't closed. They're open, and I would like to take my kid to a park that isn't covered with children, teenagers, all kinds of other things. The congestion also. I know everybody said it, but it's going to be awful. Absolutely awful. It's hard enough getting through there right now. I work early in the morning. I come home in the middle of the day, and it's terrible. But yeah, that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in. Anyone else? Any of the other speaker cards want to change their mind and speak?
If I could ask one last question, I know I already spoke, but it's quick.
Please come up and ask your follow-up question. Give us your name again for the audio feed, please.
Lou McBee, San Lomas. What does it actually take, and how much does this actually benefit us coming up here and talking? The residents that this is going to affect the most, I mean, how much do we actually get listened to, and does it take a certain amount of people? Because, sadly, because we live in such a quiet neighborhood, I don't need to prepare for stuff like this because I wasn't fearing of an apartment complex, so I just heard about this and only had a few days to prepare, which was pathetic on my part. I get it. But if it takes my whole neighborhood showing up to one of these hearings, let's say on the 27th in front of City Council, trust me, I have done door-to-door with my neighborhood. That's how friendly we are. We had a very horrible person on the HOA. It took me and other neighbors walking door-to-door to get her removed. That's how close we are. So
okay, I can address your question. So this is, Planning Commission is advisory. We don't get to make the final decision. City Council makes the final decision. And I will say that I think it does have an effect when people show up, because then we know what the opinion of the surrounding neighborhoods are. Otherwise, if you don't show up, then we have no idea what the neighbors think.
yeah, we don't care about it, but
Yeah, and I would, regardless of how we vote today or tonight, when City Council meets, that will be the final vote, and you'll have a chance Those are your elected members where we are appointed after volunteering. I've heard it said before when we have an audience that we tend to approve most of the agenda items, and that's true. We do, but the reason for that is that Goodyear city staff typically doesn't let an item get this far unless it has a good chance of being approved. And that's why you tend to see a high approval rate. Okay, is that, do we close the public hearing before we start discussion?
Do we get another
Thank
chance
you
possibly
again.
to speak in front of council, or is this it today?
Same thing, you'll have a chance to speak in front of city council too.
Perfect. Okay, that works for me.
Okay, I forget, I closed before we have discussion? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. And first, do any commissioners have any more questions for Christian?
Mr. Chairman, just a point of order, you need a motion or first, and then you can open it up for discussion.
Oh, okay. All right, then I'll close the public hearing. Then I will ask if any commissioners wish to make a motion one way or another on this agenda item.
I thought we had one more question that somebody was going to answer. Christian?
The traffic issue. I
Oh,
think
the
that's a
traffic.
Traffic issue.
Yeah.
But I think it's an order issue of when the.
Yeah, after,
happens.
Yes. So if you'll make a motion, and then you can open it up for discussion and ask the applicant or staff additional questions.
Okay, so first one of you three, or our chairman can make a motion one way or the other. And a second.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve this item number. The apartment complex is just north of El Cedro.
Do we have a second? No second. Mr. Chairman, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded to approve the item. 21-200-000005. Now I can open it up for debate. But let's start with questions to Christian, if we have any follow-up questions regarding this item. My question was the setback for the MF24 portion, so the west portion with the higher density, the south setback. Is it a stipulation that the building cannot be within a certain distance, other than the regular?
The stipulation is that if a building is constructed within the southern 100 feet, it cannot exceed a height of 30 feet.
Okay, and so within 100 feet, there's a 30-foot max. And then we have the standard building setback of, is it 20 feet?
It would depend. It depends on height and what it's adjacent to. But
Okay.
This is basically saying, in addition to those setbacks, in that 100 feet, you cannot have a building that exceeds 30 feet. So you would never see a building that's 30 foot right on the property line, because that's not allowed already.
Right.
And in addition, we added the 15 foot of landscaping, which addresses the whole carports, parking lots being right up on the line as well.
Okay, very good. Any further, Commissioner Kish?
Point of discussion and also just clarification. Can you pull up the map of where the 303 is going to be? Sure. So in the past, other commissioners have heard me talk about the proximity to a freeway and single-family homes. And I can see that the 303 is going to run right by this, almost right next to right through El Cedro. And that property there, which is going to fix a lot of, I imagine, the traffic problems when that goes in. But it's also going to be a problem for your single family. Like in the past, I've not been happy about single family homes going right next to freeways. And that's been documented before. So as a result of this Loop 303 the Loop 303, I believe that actually the apartment complex is the better option in this particular place because its proximity to Loop 303. Do we know when the Loop 303 is going to be beginning its process or what the?
The last date I heard, and this is not official, would be closer to 27, 28.
Okay, so you're looking at 5 years, 5, 6 years.
Last I heard. I believe some of that is going to be determined based on the proposition that will go to the ballot.
Okay, because we're almost to 2022 or 2021 through 2021. Okay, so and then so you're going to also have a high school there. I mean, that location next to the 303. I would actually have said I don't want single family housing there. I would have rather seen either multifamily or something other than single family housing, just because of the proximity to the 303. And also a point of what we were looking at with the densities and where growth is happening, where the apartments are. There were two things that caught my eye, where the growth was happening with the apartments, but then also where new businesses are being placed. She had that on her, so this, but then I also caught, her presentation caught my eye where businesses are going, and they're going in places where there are more density. So if we're wanting to bring more businesses to West Goodyear, this might be a way to do so as well. So for that reason, I gave my motion. For those reasons.
So I have
Commissioner Elias.
one of the questions that were brought up, actually two of them. Are there plans for Lower Buckeye to be improved, widened? Are there plans for lighting to be improved in that area? Because I do understand it is dark, and that's going to impact traffic, dramatically.
So this development will be responsible for the half-street improvements on Lower Buckeye Road and in lieu on the south half, and in lieu payments for the median that will ultimately go in Lower Buckeye. They will also need to complete 173rd Avenue, where it is adjacent to their property, and complete that by the Wells side. And they will have to put in the half-street improvement for 175th Avenue, which will ultimately connect into El Cedro. So they'll do their half-street improvements. Ultimately, Lower Buckeye will be widened fully when La Jolla Vista also goes in. So you'll have both developments doing their half-street improvements. And then I think there's a question maybe about signals. This developer, if a signal is warranted, they would be responsible for a quarter of the signal. So in the event 173rd and Lower Buckeye warranted a signal, they'd be responsible for their quarter. In the event that a signal is warranted at 175th, they would be responsible for the quarter of their signal.
And that would be based on an independent traffic study that would be done by?
Correct. So once the site plan's in, we'll do a traffic study, and then we'll take that information also with La Jolla Vista and the high school site and the traffic in that area, and we'll determine if the signal is warranted, also based on conditions that you see on the road.
Thank you, Christian. Appreciate it.
Any further questions for Christian? No.
Christian, is that 303 going to follow that 170? What is that, 173rd Ave?
So 173rd Ave, this label is labeling this street here.
Oh, okay.
The freeway at this point here is going to veer onto this site and hug El Cedro.
Okay, thank you. I just was trying to visualize exactly where that 303 was going. Okay, thank you.
Do you know offhand the parcel directly south of the El Cedro neighborhood? Do you know what that's zoned for?
El Cedro. More El Cedro.
It is, so it's more housing?
Yeah, if I
Okay.
can, let me see if I can find you a better.
I'm just looking, because, whenever a freeway goes in, we tend to get commercial around freeways.
This whole chunk, if you can follow my mouse here,
Yeah.
roughly, this is all part of El Cedro development, and that's the single-family portion of El Cedro.
Wow. The state's hugging it right next to that residential neighborhood. Huh?
Which is why I think multifamily is.
There is commercial zoning. Elwood and Cotton Lane, there is a section right here that's zoned commercial. So you can't really see it here, but where this green line and the dash line intersect, the northwest side of that, there's a commercial zoning there.
So yellow is neighborhoods, purple is
Industrial.
Industrial.
But the part that the commercial's going in, I'm not certain that is in the purple zone, but it is entitled today for commercial as part of El Cedro. So when El Cedro master planned, that was the commercial site.
So if you ever have a question about what could possibly be built around your neighborhood, all you have to do is call city staff, and they will definitely tell you what could or could not go in that parcel. Do we have any further discussion among commissioners? This is where we get to debate and try to convince each other to vote the way we want them to vote. Commissioner Ellison?
The only thing I'd like to say is that this is part of the reason why I got involved with the planning and zoning, was because I had a situation like this where I bought a home. I didn't do my due diligence. It sounds like most of these folks have. I did not. And I learned my lesson because it became industrial behind me. So it is what it is. I understand why it did, but that's why I got motivated to get up here and do my part as a resident of Goodyear to have some kind of impact on how it shapes. So this is a tough decision. You're not going to make everybody happy.
Any further discussion?
No.
No. How about Chairman Bray? Do you have any items to add to our discussion? Why, I don't know, why am I looking up at the ceiling when I do that?
I feel like we're having a seance.
That's because that's where I'm sitting right now, is up in the ceiling. No questions from me.
Commissioner Bray is in a secret location for his own safety right now. Okay, very good. Then the motion before the commission is to approve this item. I'm going to ask the secretary to take a roll call vote.
Mr. Chairman, just as a reminder, while she's preparing to do that, it does take 4 affirmative votes to recommend to council approval.
Okay.
And then for our guests that are here, just to clarify again, in case there's any confusion, Christian, this is coming up in front of council on
September 20, I'm trying to picture my sign. September 27th, 6 p.m. right here.
Right here. If you choose, if they'll have an opportunity to speak, just like tonight, they can speak to council. And as a reminder to everybody, the vote tonight, however this shakes out, is a recommendation. Council has the final authority, and council, even though they recommend approval, council could still, council can vote how they choose to, regardless of the recommendation that comes from the commission, just for everybody's information.
Council does listen to us, not always. I sent the mayor a not so happy email for not following our recommendation on one item. Only once in 9 years did I send a not happy email to the mayor, but they listen. But as Chris says, this is not the final decision. Okay, Madam Secretary, I will ask for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Ellison?
Aye.
Commissioner Kish?
Aye.
Commissioner Maloney?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Barnes?
No.
Chairman Bray?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Very good. The motion passes. If you are leaving, please do so as quietly as possible. And I hope you all come to the city council meeting to make your voice heard. Yeah, and I'll wait just a moment for things to settle down.
This is probably out of place, but it's to your comment you just made. How are we supposed to trust you in planning ahead for our home purchases to see what's zoned when you are changing the zoning on us? You just said, look forward and do your research to see what's going to be around you. You just said that, but yet you're changing what we research here in rezoning. How are we supposed to trust you?
So yeah, on behalf of the public, the city staff would explain to you, you know what? No, hold on. If you want to talk, you got to listen to the answer. The city staff can explain to you what a site could be rezoned to. Anybody can apply to rezone a site. You could apply to rezone a site from single-family commercial to an industrial factory, but your city council has to approve that, and they have to take the community's voice into consideration. Just because they can apply to rezone doesn't mean it's going to get rezoned.
Any of you live even close to this? Like, within
So,
this
Mr. Chairman, the public hearing on this
I
item
gotta cut off
is
discussion
closed.
at this
So,
point.
Thank you.
Already had their minds made up anyway.
Okay. I'm going to move on to item number 2.
Good evening, Commissioners. My item before you tonight is the Lake and Park Bungalows PAD rezone. The subject property is approximately 20 acres. It's just south of MC 85, west of Cotton Lane, just east of the Citrus Road alignment. Up here is El Cedro. We've got Lake and Industrial, which is under construction at this time. The Gila River sits further south of this property. We've got a bunch of County Island to the west. So just to talk about the history of the zoning on this property, it's pretty interesting. So in, I believe, the 90s, this green area, where this red line is, and then the property to the east was annexed into the city. The annexation process does require that property gets zoned for like zoning. So at the time it was annexed, it was rezoned to agricultural urban. The CP Lake and Park PAD, which the commission recommended for approval back in 2019, it did call out this area west of this. This is a canal, or this is a canal, and then this is, I believe, also a canal for the Arizona Department of Transportation. This area, which I'll show you in the next slide, was designated as multifamily. So that's this area in yellow. The property owner at the time did not own this piece, and this is one single parcel. So they didn't own that piece. Half of it was zoned agricultural urban, and then the other half was not annexed into the city. So it was a county designation as an R43, a rural designation. So just last month, the council approved the annexation for the remainder of this property. So with that annexation, it did rezone to the agricultural urban. So we've got agricultural urban on the west half, and then the PAD that applied the multifamily zoning as part of the CP Lake and Park PAD. The request tonight is to take this entire property, so all that was not contained by the canals, rezone it to an MF24 district. That district was previously approved as part of the CP Lake and Park PAD overlay. So that overlay established development standards and also allowed for a single-family rental type of product. So the MF12, like Christian presented tonight, it was added as an additional permitted use within the PAD overlay. When we did rezone this property, including the industrial, we had seen a lot of that product coming through. So we just prepared ourselves for the potential that this was to be zoned for multifamily, whether it be a higher density or a lower density. It was ready to go. We just didn't have that little piece included. So the PAD overlay, we just cleaned it up and we're only applying it to that section, that little triangle piece that I showed in the beginning. There has been a zoning ordinance text amendment to change the multifamily districts. We cleaned up the PAD to just state the 2 deviations that change from the city's MF24 district. So one, like I mentioned, it does allow for single-family rentals. And then the second change from what the code allows is reducing the rear yard setback from 30 feet to 20 feet. We had approved that with the CP Lake and Park PAD. We're just carrying it over to apply to this property. Here is a conceptual site plan. As you know, conceptual site plans are conceptual. The rezoning does not approve any site plans, elevations, anything like that. So it's just shared with you by the applicant just to see what that could look like. The applicant did also work with staff. They've heard that Commission and Council does like to see these elevations. They unfortunately did not have color elevations prepared. The interesting about this product that they are proposing, as you see on the screen, is they're doing a 2-story single-family rental product. So we've mostly seen, and as Christian discussed earlier, 1-story products. This one is going into the two-story territory, which is permitted. The multifamily, the MF24 zoning district maximum height is the 40 feet, so that would still apply here. We don't have single-family residential around it, so I don't believe anyone will be opposing. Not going, though, they might be here. So this is a one-bedroom ranch style that they're proposing. We've got a one-bedroom Spanish style, and I think there's actually 5 building types. So here we have a one-story that's a 2-bedroom, and then the ranch and Spanish styles included, and then a 2-story and 1-story ranch style, which has 3 bedrooms. And I just stole these slides from the applicant, so he might explain them better if you have more questions. And then this is a 3-bedroom Spanish style with a 2-story option and a 1-story option. So this is definitely a unique proposal in comparison to what we've seen in the past. We did have an alternative citizen review where we sent notice to property owners within 500 feet. We did not receive any feedback from that notice. The staff has found it to be in compliance with the general plan, the zoning ordinance, and engineering standards, and staff does recommend approval subject to the draft stipulations in the draft ordinance. And that concludes my presentation. The applicant has a presentation, or he can just answer some questions if you'd like. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions?
And Chairman, if you could please open the public hearing.
I could open the public hearing. Do we have any questions? Commissioner Kish.
Is this similar to the product that was offered at 167th Ave in Portland area right off the I-10? Right, there's what are those KB homes?
Yeah, those are platted lots.
Is that the curve?
Up at T is a platted lot.
Okay.
These are on point lot.
Okay.
Yeah, so at this time, no one can purchase the unit and the property below it. They'll just be renting it like a traditional multifamily stuff.
But it looks similar to, it's just being rented.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to get an idea of what the look would be. Thank you.
Any further questions, commissioners? No, very good. Would the applicant like to address the commission? Please give us your name and info.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. My name is Kyle Barkello from RVI Planning and Landscape Architecture in Tempe, Arizona. Very grateful to staff for that thorough presentation. It really highlighted a lot of the somewhat weird components of this. It's a 4.8 acre parcel, as Alex mentioned. 2.8 of that was actually in the county, so we had to annex that, and it was combined into that Lake and Park PAD. What we're intending to do is match the exact standards that are approved there, and it is a single family for rent product, to answer one of the commissioner's questions. And one of the unique things about this is there's 5 elevations, there's 5 different floor plans, 2 different elevations, and 3 different color schemes. So that's a combination of about 30 different combinations. And what's unique about this is our client has now started to introduce a 2-story product, which is about the size of a 2-story home, right around 26 feet. So this provides a very unique display of units mixed all throughout the community to really provide the variety of the newly adopted MF12 standards that the city worked so hard in building and really setting the stage forward for this type of product. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you might have on that, but just grateful for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicant? Questions? Chairman Bray, any questions for the applicant?
Chairman Bray is actually logged off.
Chairman Bray, we lost Chairman Bray.
He had to go.
Okay. Very good. Thank you for coming. Are there any speaker cards on this item? No speaker cards. Anyone from the audience that wishes to speak on this item? No? Very good. I will close the public hearing and request a motion from one of our commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, I propose that we approve 21-200-00004 Larkin Park Bungalows, pad overlay.
It has been properly motioned. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The motion passes. Very good. We'll move on to item 4, Canyon Trails Town Center. And I think Christian is returning to speak to us.
And if you could open the public hearing. Vice Chairman, if you wouldn't mind opening the public hearing.
I'm sorry. I'm going to open the public hearing.
I don't see my presentation, so let me do a quick hang tight. Yes, give me 1 second. I'm gonna try to do that right now. Excuse me.
Okay.
Don't leave in a hurry.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to recess for a moment while I'm recessing while we wait for Christian to finish up, okay?
item. House to conduct a rezoning on a property within the city. This property is located in central Goodyear and is located on 12.7 acres that are located at the southeast corner of Cotton Lane and Canyon Trails Boulevard. That is approximately half a mile north of Yuma Road. The property is currently zoned commercial PAD and general commercial C2, and it is part of the Canyon Trails Phase 1 planned area development. That is located right here. Zooming in a little closer, you can see that the project is west of Planet Fitness and some big box stores, east of Cotton Lane Trail and the future State Route 303 loop, south of the future Aviata Apartments project at Canyon Trails, and it is north of the remainder of Canyon Trails Town Center commercial pad sites. So if you remember when there was talk of a Home Depot, this is that site. Oh my goodness. For a little history on the property, and I'm going to give it very abbreviated because Canyon Trails is big and complicated. In 1999, which is the middle zoning map, the project was zoned as part of Canyon Trails Phase 1 Plan Area Development, and it had an underlying zoning of residential uses. Had approximately 9 acres that were designated for townhouses and 4 acres that were zoned for town court homes. In 2005, which is the right map, the 91 acres that we now know as Canyon Trails Town Center, of which this 12.7 acre parcel is a part of, was rezoned from commercial or to commercial from, well, the whole thing was commercial, multifamily, townhouses, and court homes, and single family, and it all got zoned to commercial. And for reference, the area that was originally slated for commercial that's in the larger Canyon Trails Town Center was only 22 acres. So it ballooned up to 91 acres. Today's proposal requests to zone a portion of Canyon Trails Town Center from for MF24 multifamily to create a horizontal mixed-use center. Many of you may be wondering, I'll also show you, this is the zoning map for Canyon Trails today. So we've had some amendments to it, but we're talking about this. But I've heard from past meetings you've had that many of you have had questions about the loss of commercial in Canyon Trails and in the area. So excluding these 19 acres that are now a part of the 303 and 10 interchange, I want to tell you about that. The original Canyon Trails called for a total of approximately 146 acres of commercial to be developed within the 1,800 acre master plan community. In 2005, after the 91 acre Canyon Trails Town Center expansion, there were approximately 247 acres that were designated for commercial. If today's zoning is approved, there will still be approximately 204 acres of commercial property within Canyon Trails, which is still 58 acres more than there was originally planned for back in 1999. So this zoning map, again on the right, is highlighting what the Canyon Trails looks like today. And there's 58 acres more commercial today if this is approved. As it relates to multifamily in the area, I will not bore you on this map, but I will point out that Alex's project that we just had before is down here. The project over by El Cedro called Cotton Commons is right here, and we are up here on the 303 corridor. The applicant requests to rezone the property to MF24 with a PAD overlay. The basis for the zoning is the city's MF24, which permits a maximum of 24 units per acre, and the use of the PAD overlay is justified as the current development standards for MF24 zoning does not address the unique circumstances that will be found within this horizontally mixed-use community. I'll highlight some of the major changes that are proposed within the PAD overlay. We're going to start with setbacks and landscaping. As the existing property lines fall within the private streets and drives of the center, the setback is clarified to ensure that there's a minimum of 10 feet of landscaping that will be installed between the private streets and the buildings. The east or rear setback that's closest to Planet Fitness will have has been reduced down to 10 feet and will provide for a 10-foot setback. The front will have 10 feet. Sorry, let me reread that to you. So the east has been reduced by 10 feet down to 20 feet to provide more continuity between the two developments, because usually the rear is greater than that, but this rear is adjacent to commercial. So we wanted to make sure it felt like it was a part of the center, not behind a wall and things of that nature. Because we wanted to feel more mixed use. So moving on to recreational and open space, the PAD requests a reduction to the recreational open space. Typically, it requires 400 square feet per unit, and they are requesting 275 feet per square unit. They plan to create rich environments for open space by centering the buildings on a clubhouse, fitness center, resort-style pool, outdoor kitchen, and a lounge area. And then they also intend to have a large open space in the southeast corner right here next to the commercial that could serve as something like a dog park and an open space of that nature. So also, they know that the residents of this development will have greater access to the commercial. So in some regard, that becomes the amenity. And then again, on the west side, there's the Cotton Lane Greenbelt Trail. This will ultimately, once all the developments along the 303 are done, will create a nice greenbelt trail from Lower Buckeye Road on the south up to the RID next to I-10 on the north. So if you look in Canyon Trails 4 South, you know there's that nice greenbelt there.
Yeah.
So eventually it'll be a nice little trail that goes all up to the freeway. Oh, yeah, it's kind of cool. So parking in this development will also be provided by a mix of garages, tandem parking in front of the garages, covered parking, open parking, and tandem open parking. And in order to provide certainty to the city that this will work, they'll be providing us with a parking plan with the site plan. That's something that is similar to what occurred with the district at Civic Square, if you'll recall that project. Additionally, in order to create some visual, interesting architectural buildings and not just a sea of the same building, the developer will provide at least 4 color options and for the buildings, 3 base colors, 1 accent color, and the combination of those colors should create at least 2 different color schemes for buildings across the site. The ground floor facades on the east and south side will change every 30 feet at a minimum so that there's some variety as you're walking along the buildings that are adjacent to the commercial center. They'll have pop-out, window accent treatments, things of that nature, and they need to be harmonious with the remainder of the Canyon Trails Town Center. So they need to incorporate some themes, color, architectural elements that exist within the center. So again, it feels mixed use and connected. Staff has evaluated the impact of this proposed zoning to the greater community, and with no major concerns being found, staff recommends you forward an approval recommendation to rezone the property from commercial planned area development in general commercial C2 to MF12 with the Canyon Trails Town Center Residences planned area development overlay, subject to the stipulations found in my staff report. And with that, the applicant is here. I don't think they need to speak unless you have any specific questions.
Thank you. Christian, do we have any questions for our planner?
No.
Inside? No? Would the applicant like to speak? Mr. Bull, how are you?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, or Mr. Vice Chairman.
Vice Chairman, don't slander me.
No offense intended. Ed Bull, 1850 North Central. I hope to not speak long, but I defer to you all as to how much detail you'd like from me this evening. I'm here on behalf of Embry Partners. One of the principals at Embry, Jimmy McCluskey, is here. He will be happy to tell you all you want to know about Embry's 50-year history. They were a prominent feature here in the Valley pre-recession. We worked with them then. They disappeared for a while, came back post-recession. We're happy to work with them again. They're well known for Class A multifamily development, and if you want, Jimmy could talk with you in more detail about their experience and desire to be a part of a mixed-use development, which is exactly what we're trying to achieve here. We appreciate staff's recommendation for approval. We accept the stipulations in the draft ordinance, which are steps 1 through 8. We also have Mary Estes, one of our planners here, if you have planning-related questions. But importantly here, and if David Mallon, who's associated with the underlying shopping center, which is simply too big. It's 91 acres. David was with Vestar back pre-recession when the 91 acre zoning was put in place and they started development. Their timing was right on the edge of the cliff of the Great Recession. It's been very challenging, and the world has continued to change since then, including over the course of the last year and a half or 2 years and on into the future. There's too much commercial in the 91 acres. That underlying property owner and David Mallon and I've worked with the city for a couple of years or so now, talking about how to help breathe new life into this center. Bringing in a top-notch multifamily development is a part of what's needed through the integration of horizontal mixed-use pedestrian connections and so on. It's a situation where the underlying shopping center owner has also needed to work hand in glove with 4 of the anchor tenants in the center to make sure that they had a comfort level with taking this vacant site, which, as you know, has a cyclone fence around it, because Home Depot elected to not build a store in this location and elected to sell the site back to the shopping center developer. Now what do? What you do is you need to provide additional shoppers and diners to support the stores that are there, to support the restaurants that are there. And David Mallon, with the underlying shopping center owner, has worked hard to bring in additional pad users and so on. I can run through our PowerPoint if you want that stresses mixed use, that stresses high quality, that stresses the kinds of things that Embry has done hand in glove with staff to enhance this site through building orientations and landscaping and setbacks and other kinds of things, knowing that we also need to go through, as you know, the site plan review. There's exhibits that Christian showed you that I can show you more of that show building elevations where we're well aware of the need for horizontal and vertical building articulation and colors and materials and all that. If you want me to get into that in more detail, I will. Normally, I would just sit down and be quiet, and if you want me to, I will, but I understand we have a person here in opposition that we were not aware of until about 5 minutes ago. So if I may, unless you want me to go into more detail now, I would ask for the opportunity to reserve some time for closing comments to respond to questions or concerns, if I may, because we're completely comfortable with staff's recommendation and their recommended stipulations. But I defer to you if you'd like more detail now, or if I can speak a few minutes later.
I think we're happy with your presentation so far, and we can agree that you can return with your allotted time if you need to answer any comments from others. I do have one question. I'm curious what made the applicant decide to go multifamily here. I am starting to see this mix in just a few places around the Southwest, but is there market research that's showing that this is a successful product, or other examples that have just done really well? Because this is not a common mix.
Mr. Chairman, can I interject 1 second?
Yes, sir.
Can we conclude with the public hearing, and then if you want to ask the applicant or staff or somebody else questions, that would be great.
Okay, that's not an applicant question on this. Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Any questions for the applicant? Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Do we have any speakers cards on this item?
Linda Esposito.
Linda, please come forward. Please restate your name and whether or not you are a resident of Goodyear for the record.
Yeah, hi, my name is Linda Esposito. I'm a resident of Canyon Trails. My house actually backs up to Canyon Trails Elementary, and that particular parcel that you're talking about is something that I see on my daily walk every day. And I apologize if I get a little emotional, because it is very shocking to me that this proposal is being considered. When I moved to Arizona in 2005, I was living in Flagstaff, and I've seen what the multi-use apartments and that type of action has done to that city. I moved to Arizona, to Goodyear in 2016, and I drove 50 miles to my work because I chose Goodyear as my home, as my permanent home. When I see that there's multi-use and apartments, my immediate mind is this is a transient supporting opportunity. when somebody has an apartment, they're not going to be staying here. They're going to be moving on. And that, to me, degrades my personal pursuit to have a permanent residence where I have a community of neighbors that want to stay here and want to be a part of the community. So when I think about the opportunity for this particular developer to move farther up north on 303, there's plenty of other opportunities to do that, where there's plenty of land to make a large apartment complex, a multi-use. The idea that that is commercial, I would rather see small boutiques, that type of thing that would support the community, rather than a large apartment complex where somebody is stacked on top of each other left and right. That, in my opinion, does not promote the community of Arizona, of Goodyear, to make that a permanent place where people want to live. So I'd like you consider my objection to this. And in my opinion, too, this commission or this area is supposed to be listening to the community of what we want and think about what you would do as if you were that person in that house next to those apartments. And I'd like to think that there has to be a way that we can stop passing the buck to say yes and put it in somebody else's hands, because there might be somebody that has a different agenda that's not in this group that wants to promote something like that. To me, it just brings the Goodyear city, the city of Goodyear, my community, into more of a Flagstaff or a multi-use where we don't promote somebody that wants to stay here and become a contributing resident of the city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Are there anyone else who wishes to speak on this item? Nope, no other speakers. In that case, I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion. Yeah, I think unless you have anything else to add before I close public hearing, Ed, I think, was there a response that you needed to make with your time?
I defer to the commission as to whether or not I need to make a response, but I can in 30 seconds or less, if that's all right.
Yeah, I unclosed the public hearing.
Okay. With respect to security and so on, this is a Class A development with a developer with 50 years of experience developing and managing. It'll be a gated community. It will be first class. It is not a cheap place to live. We estimate rents of between $1,200 to $2,400 a month. We take great pride in the design and the security and the amenities. I think it was difficult for me to hear, but the suggestion may have been that what this should be is single family. And as I've learned long ago from the city council and from this commission, putting single family homes adjacent to a existing or future freeway corridor is not something that the council or some on this commission would promote as being a good idea. So it's mixed use. It's a great transition. We can talk about market studies and so on if you want. But it will be a great asset to the existing tenants in this center. We request your approval.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the applicant?
No.
Final?
Not for the applicant, but for Christian. Can you just pull up the map of where it's going to be again? I'm
Sure.
trying to get in my mind's eye, where is the residential around it?
This map may help a little bit. If you go to this here, the apartments are here. It's actually buffered. There's a green belt. The Canyon Trails green belt is here. That's about 100 to 150 feet wide.
Yeah.
Across that green belt, you have a school and a park. And then there is some residential that's behind the Target.
Okay.
But where this apartment is, it would be, where this proposed apartment would be, if we go back to the center map, if you will. North of it is Aviata Apartments. To the east of it, you have parking, then you have Planet Fitness. So it'd be off of the map where you have the green belt that's 150 feet, and then the school and the park.
Okay. I just was trying to.
The closest home to here is actually between 498 and 550 feet.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Now I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion from the commission.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve. This is Canyon Trails Townhomes.
Canyon Trails Town Center Residences.
Canyon Trails Town Center Residence.
Second?
It has been properly moved. All those in favor, please say aye. Or wait, no. It has been properly moved. Is there any discussion or questions from the commission? Any debate? Commissioner Eliason, you look like you want to say something.
You know, we continue to be put into this scenario because we all want the same things in Goodyear, which is growth. We have to be able to grow, to get the restaurants, to get the Trader Joe's, to get this. And it's a fine line between keeping the small town feel, which, you know, I know that's what some people love about Goodyear, but when we complain or when residents want, and I'm a resident, we want the Trader Joe's, we want the mall, which will or will not happen. We want these things to happen. Without density, without more people, we're not going to have it. So it's a double-edged sword. That's all.
Any more? Very good. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Our last item is the preliminary plat for La Privada parcels 3 and 7. Christian, the floor is yours.
All right, good evening. I'll get right into the presentation. This is a request for a preliminary plat from Lori Castillo. This property is approximately 87.87 acres, and it is a part of the larger 240-acre La Privada that is located at the northwest corner of 181st Avenue and Yuma Road. It's in the area we commonly refer to as West Goodyear, and you'll probably recall the La Privada rezoning that occurred not very long ago, where I referred to it as a Tetris piece. Well, here we are today to plat the lower half of that Tetris piece. As a quick reminder, east of the site is a county island and county residential. West of the site is county island and county residential. North of the piece we're talking about today is the remainder of La Privada. And south of it, if you drive down Yuma Road, you'll see grading today for Paseo Place, Parcel 2. Additionally, in the future, there'll be a community called Las Ventanas that's down here. The star is the area we're talking about. At the zoning hearing in July, you saw the following plan on the left. Today, we are here to recommend approval of the preliminary plat on the right. As you can tell, it's nearly identical to the plan you saw in July on the left, except greater detail, and you can see where the sidewalk connections are, trees are, trellises are, you name it. Staff has evaluated this preliminary plat against the zoning, PAD overlay, design guidelines, zoning ordinance, and other engineering and development factors. And with no major concerns being found, staff is recommending you forward an approval to recommend the preliminary plat for La Privada parcels 3 and 7, which will contain 284 lots and 28 tracts, subject to the stipulations found in the staff report. And I'll highlight one stipulation which deals with traffic signals in this development. It contemplates that an in lieu payment of 50% of a signal at 183rd Avenue and Yuma Road will be made. And with that, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Christian. Any questions
No.
on this item?
Just morbid curiosity, how much is 50% of a traffic signal?
Well, traffic signals, so this is a West Goodyear signal that is an ADOT style. The last estimates I heard, I know Christopher wants to jump in, a total signal is close to $500,000. So
Whoa.
we're talking about 200. Yeah. I could go into concrete work and wiring and all that from what I've learned, but I won't bore you with that today. But yeah. Okay. Between $400,000 and $500,000, depending on how many utilities you have to move.
So it's a significant, like what they're giving is significant.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
This is why Wickenburg has roundabouts everywhere.
Just a point of clarification, Mr. Chairman and Commission. So just for clarification, the developer really isn't giving it to the city necessarily because it's a development obligation to help mitigate the impacts associated with the project.
Okay.
So just want to make sure we're,
Growth pays for growth is the phrase we like to use.
yes, sir. Thank you, Christian.
I like it.
Any further questions for Christian? No. No, sir. Would the applicant like to address the council? It's completely optional.
Chris Patton, I work with Rick Engineering Company, and I'm representing Melcor Development coming here tonight. So if there's nothing I need to say. Christian did a great job. So if there's any questions, you're free to ask away. And I'm glad nobody's here because I'm less nervous. So.
Any questions for the applicant? No questions? Thank you very much for coming. In that case, when we have any speakers cards on this item? Nobody wants to speak on this item. Very good. I will request a motion from the commission.
Commissioner,
Go ahead.
Commissioner, I move that we approve 21-500-00003.
A second.
It has been properly moved. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Now on to my favorite part, staff communications.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of things to recap for you. The cases that you all considered on August 11th that rolled to the City Council meeting on August 23rd, which included, as Christian presented, the Rainbow Valley PAD of about 1,300 acres down south of Cantamia, if you remember that one. That was presented to council and approved. So we're glad that that was taken care of. Lots and lots of work, especially with water and utilities and police and fire protection and things of that nature went into that. So thank you for your effort on that one. And if you may remember, we had a I don't want to say vigorous, but a healthy debate and heard from residents regarding the Fairways Assisted Living Facility project on Litchfield Road. There was also likewise a very healthy conversation at council about that. If you remember, the vote at commission was 3-2, and it takes 4 affirmative votes for something to have a positive recommendation or an affirmative recommendation to council. Council debated that. Ultimately, council approved it. They did have a couple of stipulations that were added at the council meeting. The southernmost drive to that project was restricted for emergency access only, so there'll be like a gate there with the automatic opening and things of that nature. And also they increased the tree size on the southwestern portion of that property in order to help provide some additional instant buffer, if you will. And council approved that. Last thing I have to say is thank you for your attendance at the joint work session last week. We missed Vice Chairman Barnes, but understand there's obligations and things of that nature. So, but it was a great debate, and I can tell you, if at least from the staff perspective, that we were super excited that everybody engaged, was vocal, shared their opinions and thoughts and aspirations about the future of Goodyear, and also maybe some opportunities for us to all work together to make some improvements. And it was a really great debate, and you know, we have follow-up work to do, which we fully anticipated, but nevertheless, it was really a great opportunity, and thank you for participating and offering your input. That's what I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next Planning and Zoning Commission meeting will be October 13th, 6 p.m. in these chambers. If there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned.